Hi, I'm Eric J. Barkman, and welcome to episode 6 of Time Out, my vlog about time travel and fiction. In this episode, we will be talking about the TV series Castle, which did indeed have time travel, although only in a single episode. There will be spoilers for that episode, so if you haven't seen it, you probably don't want to watch this. The episode in question is episode 5 of season 6, titled Time Will Tell. In the episode, the initial suspect they have in the murder of Shauna Taylor claims to be a time traveler sent back from the future in order to prevent a disastrous change to the timeline. His name is Simon Doyle, and he claims to be a temporal anthropologist from the year 2035. He explains that time travel was discovered after the energy wars when trying to find new sources of energy, but it is kept secret from the public and only a few people know about it. However, somebody broke into the lab, traveled back in time, and did something to change the timeline. The readings indicated that the major change of the timeline started with the death of Shauna Taylor. He was unable to prevent her murder because he had been locked up in a psych ward at the time it happened, which also clears him. And now he's trying to figure out what domino effect would be set off by her death that would cause these changes to the timeline that he is trying to prevent. Also, while watching the video of him in the psych ward, Beckett and Castle noticed that he kept saying 12:58, which was the exact time that Shauna Taylor was killed, but this video was from before that, thus supporting his claim that he's from the future. He also mentions that the timeline is mostly self-correcting for little things, and that it's just big changes that cause problems. And he says that he doesn't know what exactly the changes are because they haven't caught up to his time yet. For now, I'm just summarizing the events of the episode. I'll get to talking about stuff afterwards. Anyway, even after he was cleared, Beckett decided to still keep him in custody because clearly he had some connection to the case, and obviously she didn't believe the time travel stuff. But he kept begging to be released because he needed to, be out there figuring out what was going on to fix the timeline. And he kept looking at his watch and worrying that he would be recalled soon. And sure enough, when a psychiatrist was brought in to talk to him, he had somehow vanished from his cell. Anyway, eventually they figure out that the killer was Garrett Ward. Records of him go back 6 years when he was arrested after trying to bomb an energy conference, went back when he was part of an environmentalist group. But records of him do not go back any earlier than that. His former cellmate from jail mentions that he seemed like a soldier, and he never really talked about his personal life or family. It eventually turns out that the reason he'd been going after Shauna Taylor was he had been torturing her to learn where her stepbrother Malcolm Wickfield lived. He managed to kill Wickfield before the police got there, but just like with Shauna, he had been torturing him for information, asking where the child was, which Wickfield's wife had misheard as the child, not the name the child. Castle and Beckett talked to the leader of the environmentalist group that Ward had been a part of, who says that Ward often talked about future events as if they had already happened, and he points them in the direction of where Ward might be hiding out. While there, they got attacked by Ward, but he was chased off when Doyle returned with the weird device that he said was a tracking beacon. While talking with Doyle, he reveals that Castle and Beckett will get married, which happens later in the series. They'll have 3 kids, which we saw in the series finale. Beckett will become a senator, which he was thinking about running for at one point. It didn't happen, but it could still happen post-series. And Castle will start writing serious literature. Bit hard to believe, but hey. So anyway, it turns out that Wickfield's death is not a major change to the timeline. But this child's death will be, because he went on to invent the energy shield that was crucial in order to defeat the fascists and win the energy wars in the future. which means Ward is working for those fascists and trying to prevent their loss. He's trying to track the child down with a picture of a coffee-stained letter that he has, which the police managed to find the original one in Wickfield's house. It was a letter that the child had sent to Wickfield back when he was a high school student. Interestingly, the actual letter isn't coffee-stained, though. So anyway, after saving the child, he reveals that the reason Ward is after him was because he was the one that had pointed out to security that Ward was planting a bomb 6 years ago. And Ryan learns that Ward and Doyle do have a connection. They spent some time in the same psych ward before Ward was sent off to prison. Doyle says he has no memory of this and realizes that, oh, he hasn't been sent there yet, so he's going to be sent there in order to, talk to Ward and try and get information from him about the people he works for. As Doyle's leaving the police station, he accidentally leaves his device behind. Castle picks it up to run after him, but by the time he turns the corner, he's already disappeared. And before leaving the precinct, Beckett accidentally spills her coffee on the letter, staining it exactly like the one in the picture that Ward had, which is the conclusive proof that time travel did indeed happen here. So now that we've confirmed that time travel did indeed happen here, let's start dissecting the order of events. Basically, at some point in the future, time travel will be discovered. Fascists somehow find out about it, and they send Ward, who travels back in time to 6 years before the events of the episode. He attempts to kill a child with a bomb, but fails and is arrested. He then spends 6 years in jail, and none of this caused any major changes to the timeline. Then he gets out. He resumes his mission, starting with going after Shauna Taylor to find out Wickfield's address, and that's what allows the Doyle and his people to, track the changes to this point, and he goes back to deal with it before the changes catch up to them. Wait, time out. A lot of fiction uses the changes haven't caught up to us trope. But what does it mean, really? Does it mean, the changes go at, a rate of 2 seconds per second? So if the change was, let's say 10 seconds ago, you have 5 seconds to deal with it, or something I don't know the exact numbers, but, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't like it. It just doesn't. I don't know. Okay, anyway, so Doyle helps Castle and Beckett with stopping Ward and saving this child. And then knowing where he's been for these 6 years that he's been in this time, he then gets sent back to 6 years ago so he can spend some time in the psychic ward with Ward. Now we get to the events of this episode. You see, we're on the next loop after that because we're now in a time where he already spent, or Doyle will already have spent time there. Already will have. Tenses are confusing, but you know what I mean? Because the original timeline, no time travel up to where it's invented, goes back. Technically, I guess we have the timeline where Ward goes back. There would have been a timeline, where just Ward goes back. Then the third timeline where Doyle goes through from the present. And then another timeline where Doyle goes back to the 6 years ago. And now we have we're in the fourth timeline. At least, possibly more. And that's actually all pretty cool, when you think about it. So in conclusion, we know that the timeline is changeable, but it is generally self-correcting for minor details. I mentioned previously I'm not a big fan of that, whatever. It is what it is. And it takes a while for changes to get caught up to the future, which I also don't like, but it is what it is. So that's about it for this episode. I hope you liked it. You can thumbs the video up if you like it. You can thumbs it down if you don't. Subscribing would be great. And comment if you down below if you have anything to say. You can also follow me on other social media. I'm on Twitter where you can hear my random thoughts. I'm on Tumblr where I post my own fiction, including a monthly short story series about time travel. I'm on Twitch where I stream games multiple times a week, usually. Links to all that will be down below. Oh, and of course you can support me on Patreon if you like what I do. I mean, you don't have to, but supporting me on Patreon would help me to be able to make more content for you to enjoy, so yeah. And next episode we'll be talking about the web series Future Girl by Amy Dallin. So if you haven't already seen that, you should go check it out and be back next time, whenever that will be. And have fun.